Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today as we celebrate National WIC Breastfeeding Month. So I will start with introductions. So we have Tae Yu. She is a participant here at Ryan Health WIC. We have Shaka. She is a participant here at our Ryan Health WIC. We have Jackie Vinian, who is our breastfeeding coordinator, Ryan Health. And we have Nicole, who is a peer counselor here at Ryan Health. And I am Helene Rosenhaus Romeo, and I am the director of WIC and clinical nutrition. So I'm going to start by doing a general introduction for WIC, and maybe some of you already know all about it. But for those who don't, WIC stands for, is short actually, for Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children. And as you'll hear today, WIC is a very important program. And it's specifically designed to ensure proper nutrition and health for 4 specific groups of people. And those groups are 1, pregnant women, 2, breastfeeding women, 3, infants, and 4, children up to the age of 5. There is absolutely no citizenship requirement, so we only ask that you show us proof of the address where you reside. And there is an income requirement, and but it is, if you have SNAP or you have public assistance or you have Medicaid, you automatically already qualify for WIC. So that's all you need. And the vast majority of our participants do in fact work. So if you don't have Medicaid or SNAP or public assistance and you work and other people in your family work, that is not a deal breaker. As I said, many people work. So, feel free to ask more questions to find out about whether or not you qualify, but many people do work. So that said, for any dads who are listening out there and foster parents, maybe you're saying, oh, so WIC isn't for me. I just want to let you know that while you couldn't enroll yourself in WIC, if you are caring for a child under the age of 5, you can absolutely enroll that child. So I wanted to just be clear because sometimes that's confusing. And Ryan Health has 2 WIC locations, one on the Lower East Side at Ryan Nina and one on the Upper West Side. And since the pandemic, we are able to offer most of our services over the telephone. So people are very happy about that. So I want to offer that to anyone who's listening to think, oh, I really want to apply for WIC, but I can't make it down, just to think about that. And the best place to get information, you could certainly email us at wic@ryanhealth.org. That's wic@ryanhealth.org, and we're happy to answer your questions. So that said, I'm going to start with some questions, but I invite all of you, if you have questions, please submit them in the comments section and we'll get to them as soon as we can. So I'm going to start the conversation by putting a question out to Jackie. And Jackie, can you tell us what your role is at WIC?
Yes, absolutely. So my name's Jackie Vingan. I am the breastfeeding coordinator for our WIC program. And I am also an IBCLC, which is an international board certified lactation consultant. So I wear many hats for WIC, but I'm a nutritionist, primarily seeing the moms, the new babies, the kids through age 5. And then more specifically, I, as a lactation consultant, help all of our moms and new babies with any issues that they might be having with breastfeeding, whether their babies are having a difficult time latching, whether moms are concerned that their milk supply isn't up to where they think it should be. So that is my my primary other role as the breastfeeding coordinator, and I supervise our 3 wonderful, wonderful peer counselors, one of whom is here today, Nicole, as well as Caroline and Naomi. And our peer counselors, you'll hear more about them later, but they are also an integral part to our WIC program and help support our WIC moms.
Thank you, Jackie. So I'm going to offer a question out. Jackie, you can start, and if anyone else wants to jump in. But is it true that there's absolutely no difference between formula feeding and breast milk as it relates to a baby's health?
So as far as growth is concerned, formula and breast milk are the same in the way of helping a baby grow and getting enough calories and protein and fat. However, the health benefits of breastfeeding are above and beyond those that formula can provide on their own. The breast milk can help protect babies from getting sick. If mom has a cold and they're worried, oh, should I stop breastfeeding because I'm sick? The breast milk actually helps protect that baby from getting sick because the antibodies go from the breast milk from the mom's breast milk to the baby. There are lots of, growth hormones, enzymes, things that come from the mom, like so many components that we don't even know what all of their health benefits are from breast milk that are passed to babies. And the benefits are lifelong. They can help protect kids from overweight and obesity later on in life. Breastfeeding also helps protect mom from getting certain kinds of cancers, such as breast cancer and ovarian cancer. So the health benefits of breastfeeding cannot be matched by nutrition alone from formula.
Thank you, Jackie. And because we do have some breastfeeding women on our panel today, if you want to share any personal anecdote about your own child's health that you can share compared to maybe a child you didn't breastfeed, or any differences, feel free to jump in if you have anything.
I know that breastfeeding was very helpful after I gave birth because it helped contract my uterus. So that was very essential. And then afterwards, I noticed that my my daughter, she also was developing very well. Like, she didn't lose a lot of weight after she left the hospital, because that happens a lot. Babies lose weight. And she was able to gain back the weight really fast.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Oftentimes, we'll hear, and I can speak anecdotally from my own experience, like no ear infections with breastfeeding. While other babies were on antibiotics, we didn't have that. Tay, you brought me to my next question. I was going to ask if Jackie can share some of the health benefits to mom, because we talked about health benefits to baby with breastfeeding.
Yeah, so as Tiu mentioned, breastfeeding, the act of breastfeeding helps women's bodies return to their pre-pregnancy state more quickly than women who don't breastfeed. So like she said, it helps the uterus contract. So I hear women say, oh my goodness, I got cramps when I was breastfeeding. That's a totally normal thing, actually. It might be a little bit uncomfortable, but it does help your uterus contract. It's not something problematic that's happening. And I see that you're shaking your heads and nodding your heads in agreement. Like I was saying, it can help protect mom from certain kinds of cancers later on in life. And it also just helps with bonding with the baby. Like, of course, moms who formula feed also are able to bond with their baby, of course. But breastfeeding provides that extra special bond, the hormone oxytocin that's involved in breastfeeding is, they called it like the love hormone, the bonding hormone. So the act of having that baby on your chest, skin to skin like that with the breastfeeding, there's just so much more involved in that feeding process than just the passage of milk from mom to baby.
Great, thank you. Jackie, can you talk about how WIC can support women who want to do both breastfeed and formula feed?
Absolutely. So sometimes it feels as though it's one or the other. Oh, I'm going to fully breastfeed, or forget it, I'm just going to do formula, which is absolutely not the case. Every woman's situation is different. Every woman's going back to work, household, support systems are different. So WIC specifically works with each mom and tailors our food packages to match their needs. If they are doing exclusively breastfeeding, the mom will get a higher food package for herself. If they are doing some of both, depending on how much formula versus how much breastfeeding, we adjust their packages to meet their needs. If they only need a couple of cans of formula, there's a certain food package for mom that goes alongside that. And then if they need a bit more formula, there's another level of package for mom that goes along with that. So we never want to discourage women from doing what works best for them. If we are told the first time we meet with the mom and she says, hey, I would love to breastfeed, but I don't think it's for me, I'll often turn the question around and say, did you know you can do some of both? And very often I hear, oh, wow, I didn't realize, I thought it was just one or the other. So that's when we have more of an in-depth conversation of, okay, how much does it work for you to breastfeed? What times of day does it work for you to breastfeed? When do you have support at home that you can, use more of your energy to breastfeeding versus when do you need help and, are deciding to do formula at a different time of day. So we make it work for whatever works for you personally.
Great, thank you. I would like to put it out to the panel as breastfeeders here. What advice would you offer someone who thinks that breastfeeding is so much harder than bottle feeding?
I can hop in. Honestly, I found it hard. I'm going to be honest. It was hard for me, especially not really at first. At first, latching was this most incredible bonding experience. I loved it. But my supply, I just felt like it was really slow in coming in. My little one was having a hard time where he was very fussy on the breast as well. So it was a lot harder than I guess in my mind it naturally was supposed to be like. But I think that all the benefits actually outweigh, sorry, that's my dog. It definitely outweighs all of the hardship, honestly.
Yeah, thank you, Shaka. That's really, I think that's really important, is that because breastfeeding is natural, there's a misperception, I think, sometimes to think that it is like immediately the most idyllic, like you just come out of the gate and you can just breastfeed, without any adjustments. So thank you for reminding us all that even though it's incredibly natural and it is the preferred a way to feed your baby because of the health benefits it gives, it requires adjustment. Does anybody want to share anything more about that? Maybe your own experience and how you grew into it?
I could share a little. I think it was definitely difficult in the beginning, especially because I'm a first-time mom. I needed a lot of advice about how to position the baby and what position was right for me because of my breast. Like we all have different breasts, and then also like just having the milk come in the beginning, I had the same issue. It was very slow, and I'm like, well, she's not getting enough food, And so like it was a lot of drama in my head, and then like just having like the peer counselor at WIC to just talk to and relax me and say everything, this is normal, it's fine, and like your milk is coming in. And yeah, that was very helpful. And that was my experience in the beginning.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful to hear. Jackie, this might be a good segue for you to talk a little bit about, because we've used the term peer counselor a few times. So maybe tell the audience about, the role of a peer counselor. And I see Nicole's back. Maybe Nicole can add on to that after.
Yeah. I didn't hear the first part, but I hear you said the role of peer counselor, so I can
Yes,
I can take from there.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. You go ahead, Jackie.
Sorry. So our peer counselors are women who either worked at our WIC program or another. Not worked. Are women who participated in the WIC program either at our program or elsewhere, who had experienced breastfeeding with their own children, and we hire them from within the community and match them up with our moms that are currently on WIC to provide mom-to-mom specific support. So you've already heard we have our WIC nutritionists who are all trained to talk about breastfeeding. We have myself as a lactation consultant for more hands-on or like clinically focused support. And then we also have our peer counselors who are very trained to talk about common breastfeeding issues and also come from a place of having their own experiences with breastfeeding that they can share with our expectant moms before they deliver and our brand new moms. So Nicole can take on from here and talk about her experience in the role.
Okay, hi. So I'm Nicole Duncan, breastfeeding peer counselor. So first of all, I have 3 children, and you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have my own 3 children, and each one was a much different experience than the last. Nothing was the same per child. And you're right, Shaka. I have a similar. I had a similar thought pattern. It was rough. I was like, what am I doing here? I could just easily get this formula, but I tried. But as a peer, I take that lived experience and I use that as a springboard for my moms. So all the suffering or whatever strenuous things that happened, whatever I was going through, I used it as just something to have a good amount of something to relate, more to relate, and to know this mom can be feeling this way. Take a moment, help them work it through, work it out.
Oh no, we lost Nicole.
Yeah, we lost Nicole.
But I would say Shaka and Nicole, we invited them today because they are peer counselor and participant pair.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe
I can
Shaka, if you want to share
until Nicole comes back. Honestly, for me, Nicole was amazing. She was someone that checked on me before I gave birth. Oh, what's happening? Ask me about my appointments. How am I feeling? How am I preparing my home? Stuff like that. Literally, as soon as I got out of the hospital, Nicole was calling me. How's it going? I was telling her all this stuff because I had a very traumatic birth experience. So I was telling her everything that was happening with me and my partner. And Nicole was just a person that I could kind of find support with. She was someone I leaned on. She was able to tell me, different positions or different things I could do. But it wasn't just about, breastfeeding. It was more so for my mental health. Like, did you go for a walk today? Did you shower? It was someone that I could just rely on, that I knew that was going to call me every Thursday. And, we could talk for 5 minutes, we could talk for 20 minutes, it didn't matter. And I just always say thank you for Nicole, because if I didn't have Nicole, I don't think that I would have continued my journey since it was so difficult at first. So thank you, Nicole.
You're welcome. Sorry, guys. I'm keep getting kicked out. But basically, exactly what Shaka said. I'm here. I gave support. I used my own pain and suffering and happiness. Great, because breastfeeding can be very joyful at times. Very joyful. Okay. I use that and I help my moms, and I think about that. And I put them in my shoes, right? So any pain that I walk, they could be walking, and as much as I
So
Thank you,
everyone is,
Natalie.
I know everyone's getting a glimpse at why, not live is sometimes good, but we promise you Nicole will be back. She's has endurance. So I think I really want to bring this question up because maybe you're all familiar with this term, but disparity, right? It comes up a lot. And it comes up in terms of health disparity. So there's a difference in terms of some of the disease states of people of color, and that includes mortality and morbidity, so sickness and death related to Black women in particular, being pregnant and around that perinatal period. So I want to put it out there and ask, everyone to share and say, because it's known that, that breastfeeding is so beneficial, but it is lower in certain communities, and that is, women, Black women, especially. Can you share what your motivation was, who your role model was? How did you come to embark on this journey? And if you can share, what got you through it. I know that, WIC, it's great to hear your connection to, but even bringing you to that moment of even coming to WIC and deciding. So if you could share that.
Yeah, I can hop in again. So I have two older sisters, both of them breastfed exclusively. One was for, only 3 to 6 months, but even that is beneficial. And then my oldest sister, she breastfed until her children were past the age of 2. And she has 5 children. So I stayed in the home. I observed that from a young age to adulthood. So for me, it was always something that I just naturally thought I was going to do. And then on top of my mother and everything else, and then I definitely from WIC, hearing the benefits of it and all my prenatal appointments, it was just something I naturally concluded that I would do.
That's wonderful. Did you encounter anybody in your community just who thought otherwise, who thought it, and can you share a little bit about that?
So I'll be honest, I've had some friends that were like, oh, why would you just have formula? It's easier. There's also that thing, not from my partner, but I definitely know that that's out there, that breasts are not just for feeding a baby, but they're also for other things. So I think that there's that context of, after a certain amount of time, stop breastfeeding. So even like my partner's family, sometimes they'll ask me, oh, are you still breastfeeding? And I'll be like, yes. They're supportive of that. But I know that there's sometimes that context of, well, how long are you going to be breastfeeding for? Like, when is it appropriate? When is it not appropriate? That's always kind of there. But for me, it's what benefits me. It benefits my child. And that's what we're doing.
Wonderful. Thank you. Nicole, I know you dropped up. I don't know if you heard, but can you share what brought you to breastfeeding? Was it a role model? Was it, how did you get there?
Okay, so I'm going to talk in 30 seconds. I don't know how long I'm going to be on. But I was a teenage mom. So I was going to WIC. I had WIC. And they brought up breastfeeding. I had no clue about breastfeeding. I think my mom said she breastfed me somewhat, but not sure. But I got introduced and spoken to about breastfeeding and introduced to it at WIC. But I didn't have a peer. So that may have been why I didn't have so much success. But maybe Yes, I got introduced at a WIC. I've been a WIC participant also, so I'm not just a person who's here helping moms. I've also had the great fortune of having WIC help me and my children. And while I was pregnant, love the farmers market checks; those were awesome. Um, yeah. So I wanted to breastfeed, and I heard that it all the great benefits. I wanted to do that for my baby, and that basically, yeah, I just wanted to give something different, something that was more nutritious.
She's gone. She says what she has to say in little spurts. Tayu, what about you? Tell me, did you have role models in your community?
Actually, like my mom, she had to bottle feed all of us. She had 3 kids, so it was and my niece, she had a very difficult situation. She was born premature, so I didn't have a lot of people around me that I knew who breastfed, and it was I think it was because I had my doula, and I was kind of introduced to and with WIC I was introduced to like how much um, breastfeeding would benefit the child, and because of that I actually made the decision to breastfeed because I had been so much exposed to the formula feed.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. So for anyone listening out there who is, not being shown a whole lot of support right now around breastfeeding, but you have questions, it's something that you want to learn more about and feel supported and uplifted, please come. Ryan Health WIC program. We're here for you, and we will never pressure you, but we will certainly give you honest, evidence-based information, and we have a ton of resources in our shared experiences to help you. Jackie, I know a lot. We sort of touched on it today about that it's easier, the perception that it's easier to bottle feed. Can you talk a little bit about that, and maybe some of the risks about not only bottle feeding, but formula bottle feeding? Can you share a little bit of that?
Sure. So unfortunately, the scenario that we saw play out this summer with the formula shortage after finding out that a lot of formula had been contaminated and wasn't sterile for use, that showed us, very clearly what the risks can be associated with formula feeding, because inherently the powder is not sterile. And then if it becomes contaminated in the production process, there's no way to know in advance necessarily. And so we can take steps to be cautious with using formula and bottle feeding by boiling water and using boiling hot water to sterilize the formula powder, and then cooling it down before giving it to the baby. And cleaning our supplies and our bottles regularly. But in addition to the risk of contamination, there's also the risk of overfeeding using a bottle. So one of the cool things about breastfeeding, and that one of the things that ends up being a benefit of breastfeeding in the long term for kids, is it helps kids regulate their own appetite, because breastfed babies feed until they're done. They feed until they feel full, and they follow their natural hunger cues, and they stop. Now, us as adults now, some of us have grown out of using those hunger cues, right? Like we eat with our eyes, we love what food looks like, how it smells, all of those things. But babies are innately born with that ability to stop feeding. However, when you're using a bottle, and when you're only using bottle feeding, it puts the adult more in charge of the feeding than it does the baby. Because a breastfed baby, you can't force them to keep eating. But a bottle-fed baby, if you keep offering them that bottle, they're going to keep drinking. It comes out really quick. They just keep drinking, and, you know, they may feed past the point where their tummy is full. Let's say we make a 4-ounce bottle, but our baby's tummy is closer to the size that it'll fill 3 ounces. Let's say we don't know exactly what the size of the baby's tummy is, but a parent may be more likely to just keep letting the baby finish the whole bottle, as opposed to stopping and starting the feed, really trying to let the baby guide the feed, so that they stop after maybe they only need that 3 ounces. But you don't want to waste the food. You don't want the baby to go hungry. You're worried they're not getting enough. So, okay, over time, they end up just finishing the whole bottle because it's there. It's visual. It's what we see. So there can be the risk over time of overfeeding with the bottle, because there's also a delay of telling our stomachs, telling our brains that we're full. So for little babies, it can take up to like 10-15 minutes for their tummy to tell their brain they're full, maybe after that 3 ounces, when they've already drank that 4 ounces and now they overate.
Thank you, Jackie. Yeah, and that's a risk that starts in infancy, and as parents, even though we mean so well, right, it translates to sitting at the table and we, served a big portion to our children, and we say to them, eat everything on your plate, right? So it's kind of, that's getting carried forward. So there's a lot to discuss and talk about that, and ways to mitigate those risks. So in the little bit of time we have left, is there just like some key takeaways that people want to share in terms of, well, Jackie, first I'll leave it to you, and maybe to talk about a key takeaway to build your milk supply, right? Because there's a lot of, information out there and shared advice about how to make more milk. So can you enlighten us?
Definitely. So the key with milk supply is the more you breastfeed, the more your breast milk is going to come in. So in other words, it's supply and demand. The more your body knows that it needs to make milk, the more it's going to make more milk. So you might hear family members, friends, other people say, oh, I, drank lots of milk and that made me feel like I had more breast milk, or I ate a ton of oatmeal, or I drank this tea, or drank this juice. There are lots of pieces of information out there. The internet is a great, but also very scary and very not nuanced sometimes place. So I would always encourage, our WIC moms to seek either myself or another trusted source to share what's true in the way of building your milk supply. So I'll always say, the more you breastfeed, the more you're going to get more milk. If you want to eat some oatmeal and you feel like that's helping your breast milk supply come up, it's not going to harm you, right? You can overdo it on some of those medicinal teas, like the mother's milk tea. You don't want to overdo it on these unregulated herbal supplements. So those you want to be really careful with. But things that are normal things that you might eat, like drinking a little extra milk or eating a little more oatmeal, I don't see a problem with that if you feel like it's giving you that confidence boost of boosting your milk supply. But please try not to go down these rabbit holes of like, this one food is going to be my savior. With breast milk supply, especially in the beginning, babies need to eat just about every 2 hours, give or take, 8 to 12 times a day, an average of 10 times a day. And you're going to see that milk supply come up in those first couple days that Shaka and Tia were talking about. When you feel like you don't have a lot of milk, when the baby's first born, and this is going to go into a whole other tangent, but when the baby's first born, you don't have a lot of milk yet. You have a type of breast milk called colostrum, which is smaller and concentrated and perfect amount for your baby. Hi, baby.
I'm cute.
Yes, right on cue. So your milk supply grows as your baby grows through that first few weeks. The more your baby feeds, the more you're going to see that milk come in. And that's also why we encourage as much breastfeeding as possible, as opposed to introducing formula too early, because it can end up working against you. If you skip a time that you're breastfeeding because you're worried that you're not getting enough breast milk, well, then you're working against yourself because you didn't stimulate your breasts again, didn't remind your body to make more breast milk, and it can become a cycle. So that's why we say the bottom line is the more you breastfeed, the more you're going to get your breast milk to come in. And that's the best way I can try to boost your confidence in that beginning stage.
Thank you, Jackie. That's perfect. So I think now that we have a complete, whole, beautiful picture here of our wonderful babies and moms, maybe we'll leave it. And I'll just remind everybody, Ryan Health WIC, we're here for you. Please come to us for your questions. It's a great program. You deserve to be supported during this special time, and we're eager to help you. So with that, I'll say thank you. And thank you all, too, to our panelists. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you to you and Shaka for joining us today. Your voices in this are so powerful, like, because there's only so much Helene and I can say of sharing what WIC provides, but hearing from you, it warms my heart to hear how it's impacted, your breastfeeding experiences. So I'm glad you were able to share those today.
Truly, thank you. And to Nicole, wherever you are, Nicole.
Yeah, to Nicole.